earthquake, an absolutely devastating situation that these two countries find themselves in. And Alhamdulillah, I do also know that Moulana Suhail Wadee is going to truly talk very highly about the South African Muslim Ummah, who have really and truly been digging deep into their hearts and their pockets and making aid a possibility and a reality. Assalamu alaikum to you, Maulana. Welcome to the program. Nice having you on air this morning under very, very sad circumstances, might I add.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yes, indeed, it is exceptionally sad for the Muslim Ummah, for the people of Turkey, for the people of Syria. Alhamdulillah, our team has returned a few days ago, and we thought we'd like to share some of the some of our observations that we had seen. Alhamdulillah, Ashraful Aid was from amongst the very first responders. On the day that the earthquake had hit, Alhamdulillah, our teams have had responded with food aid, and it was then supported the next day when our South African teams flew out. And Alhamdulillah, it was wonderful that amongst the first responders from South Africa were predominantly Muslim and Muslim-based NGOs. And Alhamdulillah, the appreciation by the Turkish government and by the people and from these Syrian refugees that have been affected has been very, very heartwarming. But in the same vein, the loss of life and the tragedy that people are facing on such an unprecedented level it really breaks our heart to see such mass scale destruction. And the mind cannot fathom that that in a radius of about 700 kilometers, the destruction levels. I think they said that the death toll is close to past 35 to 36,000. But my personal assessment, is that many of the homes, many of the buildings have not yet been reached. And that figure it's still going to be really much more than that. So it's really sad to see the situation on the ground. So the one is the loss of life. The other is the helplessness that people are facing, because many homes or many like apartments, and that because of structural damage, people cannot live in those. It's uninhabitable. They aren't able to live in it. So they have become displaced, and many of them are now staying in tents. And because of that, many people don't have access to some of to their clothes, to food, to even some of their documentation, because they aren't able to access their homes. So even if they had money, or they don't have any identification, they aren't able to access their clothes, they aren't able to access food and that. So still going to take a long time. I know at one center, from the coordination center, close to around 50,000 meals are being prepared on a daily basis. That's in Kilis. And in Marash, where we also assisted, close to 15,000 people are being fed daily, and this number is increasing. In Gaziantep, we've seen thousands of people now living in parks, in tents that have been put up by the Turkish government. And this is really, really hard. So the stories that we have, even from our own colleagues, one family person, he lost close to 30 members of his family. And the sad part was that because of lack of transportation and accessibility of roads, he had to actually go and fetch a few family members, put them that are deceased, put them in the boot of his vehicle, in the back seat of his vehicle, go bury them, come back, collect the next batch of of family members. So these are heartbreaking scenes. And if you have to see some of those images, it's really, really shocking and heartbreaking. And we would like to thank the South African community for their overwhelming support to the people of Turkey and Syria.
Two points that I do need to, or two comments that I'd like to make. regarding what you've just shared with us now. Number one was I was absolutely amazed, as was, I should imagine, the rest of South Africa, that Ashraful Aid and other Muslim NGOs were first on the ground. I mean, I still am in amazement regarding that issue. How is it that you guys were so prepared, or is it a situation where you guys have been trained that if ever there's a disaster anywhere in the world, that you are ready, and you are ready in within 5 minutes to pack your bags and take all the necessary items needed, or whatever is needed, and go and start working on the ground, very much like one or two other amazing NGOs, Muslim NGOs here in South Africa. That is truly remarkable. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, so to put it into context, in terms of Ashraful Aid being a disaster response organization, in South Africa, for example, within an hour we can respond to any crisis in South
Wow.
Africa, and within a few short hours, anywhere in the world, especially Alhamdulillah because of our reach. In this particular case of Turkey, Ashraful Aid was a bit in a fortunate position because we already had operations in the same areas, whether it was in Syria, whether it was in Turkey. That is why within a few hours we were able to prepare meals. We also have a bakery that we put up a few months ago, which is in the Azaz region, northern Syria, and this was facilitated last year and set up, which provides close to about 60,000 bread per day. And this has become a very crucial bakery because it's one of the very few providers of food in that area. And it was so crucial that it also started to provide bread for in the Turkish side as well. So servicing northern Syria as well as people on the boundary of the Turkish side. So Alhamdulillah, this is only because of the grace of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala.
Absolutely.
But Alhamdulillah, it's really amazing, and to say that our Muslim NGOs, I know.
Alhamdulillah.
Are able to respond within such short notices, and in terms of their disaster preparedness.
And logistically, you guys seem to have it down to the finest of details. Alhamdulillah, keep at it. It is amazing work that you guys are doing. The other point that I do want to make, and from the time the disaster started, we've been talking to different NGOs, and everyone's doing marvelous work, as is Ashraful Aid. But it's the first time you have made a point which I've not heard before, and it is such a crucial point to be made. We know that infrastructure post the disaster relief, post the emergency relief, what now has to happen is focus on rebuilding the infrastructure. That's going to happen with help from engineers, builders, etc., from all around the world. But the one other important thing you've mentioned here is the displacement of undocumented people, because people had to flee. Those people who managed to get out of these disaster areas got out of there with only the clothes on their back. It wasn't a situation where you could go back to grab your documentation. So, can you imagine the massive task on the hands of the Turkish and possibly Syrian authorities trying to document all of these hundreds of thousands of people? Do you believe that Ashraful Aid would have a role to play, or is this truly the work of the people of Turkey themselves?
I think in this case, it most probably have to be the local authorities to be able to identify people. It would be beyond our scope in terms of identification. Our assistance would help. We would help people whether they documented or not. But obviously, the documentation, whether verification of people with their families, I think that would be done by the Turkish government as well as by the Syrian authorities.
huge task ahead of them, is that not? I mean, imagine these people having to rebuild their lives from scratch, and they can't do that without documentation. So, a really huge task ahead of them. What else do we need to know about the situation on the ground? Your team has just arrived back into South Africa. Are you preparing another team to go back into the field to do more work and more
Yes,
aid
so
relief?
yes, so our first team, Alhamdulillah, in terms of response, has done a remarkable job. The second team will be leaving next week. This Because we understand the situation much more better, we can understand the immediate needs as well as the short term, medium to long term needs. So this is not going to end or come to an end within a month or so. It's we have to prepare ourselves for a long period in terms of providing aid. And so our next teams, Alhamdulillah, we're already looking at sourcing, goods from South Africa, or whether we can source it from Turkey, and Alhamdulillah, through our partners and the airlines. Alhamdulillah, we'll be sending some more supplies next week, as well as the coming weeks. More teams will be leaving to Turkey as well,
My
inshallah.
final question then to you, Amin, Thumma Amin, may Allah accept all efforts, inshallah. My final question then, I'm just wondering, because we see women's groups and all sorts of little groups springing up all over trying to collect monies and goods, to send, obviously, to Turkey and Syria. Sometimes we do end up having too much of things that is not needed. Whom do you liaise with? Would it be the ambassador, the Turkish ambassador here in South Africa, or do you have people on the ground in Turkey who would be able to tell you what exactly is needed, rather than sending stuff that is not going to be useful to them at all in their most dire time of need?
Yes, I think this is a very important statement, because a lot of people are sending items. It's exceptionally cold, and people are living in tents. So it's also very important what goods are being sent. And there has to be a proper needs analysis. I think this has been provided by the Turkish embassy, as well as by we are first, and also have done an assessment, as well as our teams that are currently also on the ground in Turkey. And it's important that only specific goods. And also, what we need to understand is that the needs are changing day by day. So today they might need food, tomorrow they might need accommodation, might need tents. From there they might be moving into more permanent facilities, or more rugged facilities, like containers. So the needs are changing day by day. So it's very important that the community understand the dynamics, and work with agencies or organizations that are already based there, and are working. Because it be just as an example, people give now skippers, and like wearing dresses, and those type of things, and suits. It's really not needed at this point in time, because because of the exception of the cold that is there. You can't give summer clothing now in winter, as an example.
Okay, that's where we're going to leave it. Thank you indeed for that outline and that information. Um, in closing, then, what do you want to ask and share with the South African Muslim Ummah? Because your work will never be done. And it doesn't matter how much of hard work you guys put in and how much we dig into our pockets, it still is never enough. It never will be enough. How do we move forward? What do we do as an ummah to make sure there's always funds available? Because once we're done as Al Imdad Foundation with the relief in Turkey and Syria, lo and behold, there's going to be a disaster someplace else around the world. And you're going to have to then respond immediately to that particular crisis.
I think it's important that we, as an ummah, we first of all, we don't take things for granted, because this has shown us that people, they might have own buildings. I know, we read one incident that a person had three buildings, and within 48 hours he was, getting 3 loaves of bread. That's the only thing that he had.
Absolutely.
So we shouldn't, first of all, we shouldn't take things for granted, and we should also prepare ourselves as an ummah. And in case, in terms of disaster relief, in terms of what we have, so we should prepare ourselves. Things can change overnight. We've seen the same thing that happened in KZN, whether it was with the riots and with the floods. So inshallah, we should also make dua, continuous dua to Allah subhanahu wa
Ameen.
ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us and protect our families as well as the ummah.
Ameen.
And 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 like that, also make shukr for what we have. In shakartum la azidannakum. As long as we're making shukr and thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help and blessings will always be with us.
Thumma Amin, how do people make their very welcome donations to Ashraful Aid?
So the easiest would go onto our website, which is ashrafulaid.org, ASHRAFUL aid.org. That would be the easiest. All our details are there, our banking details, and inshallah also, to share that, and to share our social media, and the activities and feedback that we are giving to other people as well. That will be greatly appreciated.
Ameen, thumma Ameen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of your efforts. May you guys at Ashraful Aid grow from strength to strength and carry out
Amen.
this amazing work, inshallah. And undoubtedly, we will be talking again sometime in the future regarding updates as far as this current situation is unfolding. Allah be with one and all, inshallah. Moulana Suhail Wadee, Ashraful Aid, shukran for being with us on the show this morning, and keep on doing the amazing work that you guys are involved in.
Amen. Jazakallahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam. It is exactly 18 after 10 o'clock. News and views coming to an end for the morning. Thank you indeed for your company. Don't forget you can join us again at the same time tomorrow morning. Please take care on the roads. A big thank you to our production team. And that, of course, is you, Nasri Naidu and Tolani. Till then, as always, assalamu alaikum and khudafiz from me, Julie Ali.